it's Christy here from the Stamp Cycle, and welcome to another video from my YouTube channel and blog. Today I'm going to be making a watercolor card using Stampin Up Falling Flowers and the coordinating Mayflowers thinlits. I wanted to show you something kind of cool about this stamp set and the matching thinlits. This is a clean mount stamp set, so it's not photopolymer, so you can't see through it. But what Stampin' Up has done to make it really easy to line up those dies with the stamps is they've added a tick mark on the stamp. You'll see it's an arrow there at the top. And then they've also added a metal tick mark on the dies. And if you line those two up, you get a perfect cut flower. So it makes it super easy to figure out where you should place your die when you want to cut out your stamped images. The thing that I do with these is I always stamp my flowers with that tick mark facing up. So when I go to use my die to cut it out, I know to also put that tick mark on the die facing up, and they line up perfectly, and I get perfectly cut flowers every single time. So thank you, Stampin' Up. So I've got a piece of watercolor paper here, and I'm going to be working on the smooth side, and I'm going to start stamping all of these flowers using Versamark ink. I'm going to first prep my watercolor paper with my embossing buddy. Watercolor paper is hard to get crisp embossed images on, so that's why I'm using the smooth side, and I'm also making sure I put plenty of that powder from the embossing buddy so I don't get any stray embossing powder, because I'm going to be stamping all of these images in the Versamark and then applying white embossing powder and heat setting all of these so that I will watercolor heat embossed images. So I'm just coming along here, and I'm going to stamp several of these flowers and then several of the other images that you see along the side there with the Versamark. And then I will come in with some Stampin' Up white embossing powder, and I will coat all of those images with that white embossing powder. And then I will heat set those with my heat tool. I didn't show you all of the stamping that I did for all of these flowers and leaves, but I did make sure that every time I stamped one of those images that had the tick mark, I made sure I put that tick mark facing the top of my watercolor paper so that I knew exactly how to place my die to cut it out later. I just used a dry paintbrush there to get off any embossing powder that were in places that I didn't want it to be. So there's all my final heat embossed images that I'm going to watercolor. I'm going to be using this Kuretake Gansai Tambi watercolor set. I got this off of Amazon. These watercolors are beautiful. They're highly pigmented, and they're very creamy, and I really like to watercolor with them. So first I'm just going to lay down some color on my palette there to get the exact color of green and the other colors that I'm going to use for the watercoloring. Then I'm going to apply some just clean clear water onto each of those images that I'm going to paint. First I'm going to paint the leaves, so I'm applying this clean clear water on all of the leaf images. And then I'll go in with that green paint that I mixed up there, and I'll just start dropping it in. The great thing about watercoloring heat embossed images is that raised edges of the heat embossing keeps the watercolor within each of those little raised areas. So you don't have to worry about colors mixing or your paint kind of spreading all over your paper. This makes watercoloring really easy to do it with embossed images. So I just painted the leaves there, and then I'll just continue to paint all the other images that I stamped in heat set. I didn't show you all the watercoloring, but here is the final look at all of those images that I watercolored there. I used a mixture of blues and oranges and greens. You're going to want to make sure that all of your images are nice and dry before you begin die cutting. So you can hit that with your heat tool to make sure all of your watercoloring is dry. And then, like I said, I stamped all of these images with that tick mark facing up. So I could just come in here with the matching dies. Again, putting that tick mark on the die facing up, and I get perfect cutout images. So that really makes it easy to use this stamp set and coordinating dies. So here's all the images that I watercolored and cut out. So now I'm going to use these Lawn Fawn rectangle stitch dies to create a frame for the front of my card. I've got some of this Shine On Designer Series paper that was in the previous occasions catalog. It's retired now, but I love this paper because it has a beautiful foil element to it. So I'm just going to use this polka dot pattern and cut out that frame. I will now make a card base out of some thick Whisper White cardstock. This is just an A2 top folding card base. I'll apply that frame to the front, and I'm just going to start laying out all those die cut pieces so that I can get my arrangement perfect before I start gluing anything down. I like to do my flower arrangements before I glue anything, just so I can move things around if I don't like where I end up putting a piece. So another cool trick is press and seal. You can use this from your kitchen. Press and seal is awesome in the craft room because you can take a piece of that and you can pick up this entire floral arrangement that you've spent all this time arranging, and you can pick it up with this press and seal and it becomes one piece. So you don't have to take a picture of it and look at your picture to reference how to put your arrangement back together. This press and seal keeps it all in one piece. It makes it super easy to move around, to glue it down. I love this stuff. If you don't have it, I suggest you go right out and get you some because it is fantastic for the craft room. So I really didn't like that stark white background, so I decided I wanted to do some ink blending sponging. I've got some Pool Party Pool Party ink here. Sorry, I can't talk. And I'm just going to sponge that on lightly onto the background, trying not to get sponge marks till I get a nice kind of covered sponge background. And then I will adhere this frame that I cut out with just some Tombow multi-purpose glue. And I'm just going to adhere that right to the front. And then I'm going to take that same glue and just apply it to the back of all of my flowers in that flower arrangement. And like I said, this press and seal makes it super easy to work with because I can apply all that glue to all of those individual pieces, pick that press and seal up, it's all held together, just apply that to the front of my card and voila, perfect. You just peel the press and seal off and they're all stuck to the front of your card. Super, super easy. So now I have this Simon Says stamp. This is the painted sentiments. It's the friend sentiment. And I'm just going to cut out some of the silver glimmer paper with that friend sentiment. I really love the font of these painted dies from Simon Says Stamp. They've got some really nice ones. Hello, friend. There's kindness. I just really like the font on them. So I wanted that friend to have some dimension. So I also cut that same die out of some fun foam. And I'm going to adhere the shimmer, the glimmer paper onto the front of that fun foam to give it a chipboard appearance there. So I wanted to add a happy birthday sentiment, so I have a piece of vellum here, and I'm going to use that stamp from I think that's Thoughtful Banners stamp set, and I'm going to be stamping this in Versa Fine Onyx Black ink, but it says happy birthday to you, and I just wanted the happy birthday. So I masked off that to you with a piece of masking tape. I'll just ink up my stamp, pull that masking tape off, and then stamp down on that piece of vellum. I did prep that vellum with my embossing buddy because I will be heat setting this sentiment with clear embossing powder. That Versamark Onyx ink is a pigment ink, so it does stay wet for a while. So you either need to set that piece to dry, or you can heat set it with some embossing powder like I'm doing here. I'm using some clear. So I'll just apply that clear embossing powder, heat set it, and I'm good to go. So now I'm just going to cut down that vellum piece and create a banner edge on each side of that sentiment. So I'm just taking my scissors, cutting a slit down the middle, and then cutting in from the corners, and that creates a super fast banner. So I'm just going to adhere that friend sentiment to the front using some Ranger Multi-Medium Matte Glue. This glue dries clear, so if I get a little too much on there, it'll dry and you won't even see it. So I'll adhere the friend to the front, and then I'm going to adhere that vellum piece with some 3M foam mounting tape. I'm just going to cut it down so that I can put the mounting tape behind that heat embossed sentiment. So you don't see it on the front of the card. You do see it a little bit, but it's not that bad that I think someone would really notice. So, and then what I've decided to start doing is finishing the insides of my cards. So I took that center piece from the frame that we cut out. It has a nice stitched edge to it as well, and I just adhere that to the inside of the card to kind of tie in the front of the card to the inside. And then I'm going to take this banner from that same stamp set. I'm going to stamp it in some archival basic black ink and onto just some Whisper White cardstock. This is not thick, it's just the 80-pound Whisper White. And then I'll also take some additional sentiments that are in that same set. There's one that says, eat your cake and have it too, something like that. But just some really cute sentiments in there. I love this banner. It really is beautiful, especially when you cut it out with the coordinating dies, which we will do here in a minute. So now that I've stamped both of those sentiments, I'm going to use the coordinating banner dies and cut this out. And then I will just adhere it to the inside of the card with some more of that Tombow multi-purpose glue, and that finishes it off. I love that the front of my card and the inside of the card is now finished, so it is ready to send to a friend. So thanks for joining me today. I hope you maybe got some tips and learned a few things. If you would like some more information on the supplies used, you can check out my blog at www.thestampcycle.com, and I will catch you guys on the next video. Thanks!